Galvin says there were no major problems yesterday in Massachusetts. He is convening a group to review the mail-in ballot system with the goal of making it permanent even beyond and after the pandemic. We spoke to a constitutional expert this afternoon who says it was the Founding Fathers' intent that counting continue past Election Day, because when the Constitution was written, everybody lived really far away. The only way to get around was by horse. It took a while for those ballots to arrive. Live in Brookline, Sarah Conji, WCVB News Center 5.
All right, Sarah, thanks for that. It looks tonight like Republicans will keep control of the United States Senate, although it's going to be awfully tight. The GOP managed to hold several of the seats they were defending. Here's a look at the balance of power in that chamber right now. 48 Republicans, 46 Democrats, still 6 seats in play. Let's go to Wilmington, Delaware, and Democratic nominee Joe Biden.
Good afternoon, everyone. Kamala and I are here to make a brief statement, and I'm sure we'll have more to say later, and either tonight or tomorrow. But let me begin by thanking the press for being here and thanking everyone else. My fellow Americans, yesterday once again proved that democracy is the heartbeat of this nation, just as it has been the heartbeat of this nation for 2 centuries. And even in the face of a pandemic, more Americans voted this election than ever before in American history. Over 150 million people cast their votes. I think that's just extraordinary. And if we had any doubts, we shouldn't have any longer about a government of, by, and for the people. It's very much alive in America. Here, the people rule. Power can't be taken or asserted. It flows from the people, and it's their will that determines who will be the President of the United States, and their will alone. And now, after a long night of counting, it's clear that we're winning enough states to reach 270 electoral votes needed to win the presidency. I'm not here to declare that we've won, but I am here to report that when the count is finished, we believe we will be the winners. With all the votes counted, we have won Wisconsin by 20,000 votes, virtually the same margin that President Trump won that state 4 years ago. In Michigan, we lead by over 35,000 votes, and it's growing. A substantially bigger margin than President Trump won Michigan in 2016. Michigan will complete its vote soon, maybe as early as today. And I feel very good about Pennsylvania. Virtually all the remaining ballots to be counted were cast by mail. And we've been winning 78% of the votes by mail in Pennsylvania. We've flipped Arizona and the 2nd District of Nebraska. Of special significance to me is that we've won with the majority of the American people. And every indication is that that majority will grow. We have a popular vote lead of nearly 3 million votes, and every indication is that will grow as well. Indeed, Senator Harris and I are on track to win more votes than any ticket in the history of this country that ever won the presidency and vice presidency. Over 70 million votes. I'm very proud of our campaign. Only 3 presidential campaigns in the past have defeated an incumbent president. When it's finished, God willing, we'll be the 4th. This is a major achievement. This is a major achievement. And it's been a long and difficult campaign, but it's been a more difficult time for our country, a hard time. We've had hard campaigns before. We've faced hard times before. So once this election is finalized and behind us, it'll be time for us to do what we've always done as Americans, to put the harsh rhetoric of the campaign behind us, to lower the temperature, to see each other again, to listen to one another, to hear each other again, and respect and care for one another, to unite, to heal, to come together as a nation. I know this won't be easy. I'm not naive. Neither of us are. I know how deep and hard the opposing views are in our country on so many things. But I also know this as well. To make progress, we have to stop treating our opponents as enemies. We are not enemies. What brings us together as Americans is so much stronger than anything that can tear us apart. So let me be clear. We are campaigning as a Democrat, but I will govern as an American president. The presidency itself is not a partisan institution. It's the one office in this nation that represents everyone. And it demands a duty of care for all Americans. And that is precisely what I will do. I will work as hard for those who didn't vote for me as I will for those who did vote for me. Now, every vote must be counted. No one's going to take our democracy away from us. Not now, not ever. America's come too far. America's fought too many battles. America's endured too much to ever let that happen. We, the people, will not be silenced. We, the people, will not be bullied. We, the people, will not surrender. My friends, I'm confident we'll emerge victorious. But this will not be my victory alone or our victory alone. It'll be a victory for the American people, for our democracy, for America. And there will be no blue states and red states when we win, just the United States of America. God bless you all, and may God protect our troops.
All right, there you have it.
Thank you.
The former Vice President Joe Biden, the Democratic candidate for president, may well soon be the president-elect of the United States, certainly sounding very confident there. Vice President Joe Biden pointing out that he is in a commanding position right now, frankly, Emily, on the path to 270 votes.
Right, not declaring victory, really careful to say that, but saying that he feels confident that when this is all said and done, he will be the president of the United States. And the other thing I noticed there was that real call to unity at the end, that when this is done, we're neither Democrat nor Republican, we're all Americans, really trying to strike a tone, I think, that we need to start uniting, stop fighting each other, start listening more often. It was an interesting tone to strike, I thought. Let's
take you back to some of the battleground states that we're watching very closely, because there's the map as it stands right now. 270 is what you need. Joe Biden sits at 248. Wisconsin being called for him this afternoon. Arizona this morning. Donald Trump at 214. Let's take you to Pennsylvania, actually, if we can, because this morning when a lot of us got up, this was sitting at about a 600,000 vote lead for the president. Now you can see the numbers right there. They are down to just a shade over 320,000 or so, right around that mark. It is shrinking. They're putting out a lot of data on what votes they have yet to count in Pennsylvania. 1 million mail-in votes, which have been heavily favoring the Democrats. And so the Biden campaign thinks they've got the math here to close this gap and win.
And it could be the same situation in Michigan. That's another one that we're also watching here where this lead is shrinking. You can see 99% is now reporting, 49.8% for Joe Biden, 48.7% for Donald Trump. So close. We're going to keep an eye on this. Want to take you live outside right now and shift gears because this is beautiful. We're going to take a quick break from all the politics and we're going to show you this.
And
it's gorgeous.
What a treat we've got coming for the next week or so, Harvey Leonard?
For a while, yeah. This is really a nice change of pace, change the topic here for a moment and let you know about some really fine weather that's set to move in. First of all, look at the temperature right now, 53 in Boston. Yesterday, we barely got into the low 40s, the low to mid 40s, so it's been running about 10 degrees milder today than it was yesterday, and it's hard pressed to find a cloud around New England at this time. So over the next 12 hours, it's not going to be nearly as chilly tonight as it was last night. We'll be dropping down to only about 50 or so here in Boston, maybe some upper 40s, but generally a milder night. In fact, even if you look at Taunton, it's only going to drop down to the upper 40s to around 50 for an overnight low. Now check out the temperatures just to our west and south. Syracuse 68, New York City 61. Detroit is 70. So we have an excellent chance of being in the 60s for tomorrow. Look a little farther to the west, and it's even warmer. So, yes, this is going to be a warm pattern for us setting up. Now, in terms of cloudiness, it's going to be mainly clear throughout the course of the night. One thing we'll watch tomorrow is the wind begins to increase out of the south-southwest. Down near southeastern Mass and the Cape, there could be a strip of clouds and maybe a little spritz that occurs sometime later in the day. The rest of the region should have a good deal of sunshine. We're also keeping a careful eye on Eta. That was that very powerful hurricane that did such a number on Nicaragua, and it's still causing massive rains across much of Central America. However, the winds are way down. It's almost down to a tropical depression. But this is probably still going to be something that we have to follow because it may emerge or reemerge back toward Cuba and maybe even somewhere near Florida as we get to this weekend and early next week. So it'll still be followed very carefully as, again, there may be some regeneration of that storm. In the meantime, you can see that it's really clear over so much of the country at this time. Now, I want to break down, well, I was hoping to get to the 7-day forecast, but I don't think I'm going to be able to make it on this particular one. So let's forget that because that's not the case. So let's go back again just a little bit if we can. And before we wrap it up, and I want to show you what we're really talking about in terms of, well, I guess I can't go back. So that's it. Anyway, we'll have much more for you at 4:30. I'll have many more details on the 7-day forecast. Suffice it to say that we're going to be in the 60s for the next few days, and there'll be a few days where we may hit 70 or higher. We'll see you in the next half hour. And Emily?
Looking forward to that, Harvey. Thank you. The National Guard is on standby in Boston as protests are planned tonight.
That's right. Mayor Walsh asking everybody to remain peaceful. Our Rondella Richardson's downtown right now. Rondella.
Ben, the operative word is bracing for absolutely anything. As you can see here, the 7-Eleven is all boarded up, but the neighboring Cafe Nero is not. But the manager did get an email saying remove all outdoor furniture so it couldn't be touched or taken. There were and still worries about how the electorate reacts to election results. With nothing definitive in the presidential race at this time, the boards are remaining up on the banks and the businesses. This is the area around City Hall. Boston's mayor and the police commissioner today saying they have no reason to believe violence or civil unrest will fall on Boston. The boarding up has been out of an abundance of caution.
I know the situation certainly has many people anxious, and some people are looking for opportunities to speak out during this time. I would just ask everyone again to do it peacefully and constructively.
When you voice your First Amendment rights, do so with the voices of logic, not the ignorance of destruction.
And we want to show you these images from Sky 5 of the National Guard. This is the area at Atlantic Avenue and Nealon Street. They are standing by just in case they are needed. And as the ballots continue to be counted around the country, the police commissioner says Boston is ready to react to whatever is needed. We are live in Boston. Rondella Richardson, WCVB News Center 5.
Rondella, thank you. All right, still ahead tonight, a sign of the holidays at the grocery store.
And ahead at 4:30, meet the new youngest member of Congress, the 25-year-old, now heading to Capitol Hill. A little bit of holiday joy to tell you about, maybe give you a break from the nonstop news these past few days. Aldi announcing it is now selling a collection of more than 20 different advent calendars. The grocer's calendars, they're popular every year. They often sell out. This time, they're offering wine, beer, or hard seltzer calendars, as well as options for children and pets.
Do you have to get Christmas presents or holiday presents for your pet?
I don't know. You're about to find out. Aren't you on the puppy patrol?
Aren't you?
Okay, fine. Stalemate.
You know who already knows the answer to that question?
I know. This man is definitely on puppy patrol.
Oh my
Ed
goodness.
Harding.
The
Ed
answer is
Harding.
yes, 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 and yes. Guys, 7 states still hang in the balance. President Trump taking legal action over election results in 2 of those states. We break down what's happening right now with our 2 political analysts. New meeting tonight to razor thin. Joe Biden winning by a single vote in 2 Massachusetts towns. And election security moves into a new chapter with warnings that election websites could now be hacked. As counting continues, the National Investigative Unit has the latest. Marie and I at News at 5 and 4:30. Next.
WCVB News Center 5 at 4:30 starts right now.
Right now, as we come on the air at 4:30, the waiting continues.
It does. An anxious nation holding its breath as we all wait to find out who will lead us for the next 4 years. There are still millions of uncounted votes out there. There are vote counters that you're looking at right here in Pennsylvania, where the outcome hinges on Pennsylvania and 6 other battleground states.
So right now at 4:29 in the afternoon, here's where we stand in the battle for 270 electoral votes. Joe Biden has 248. President Trump has 214.
Now let's run right now through the key states here. The Associated Press and ABC just now calling Wisconsin for Joe Biden. President Trump is calling for a recount.
To Michigan, where President Trump has filed a lawsuit to halt all vote counting.
And to Pennsylvania, President Trump also suing there to stop the vote count.
Let's talk about the balance of power in both chambers of Congress. First, to the power of in control of the U.S. Senate. With you have the Democrats holding on to 46, Republicans holding on to 48. That battle is still playing. And for example, in the state of Georgia, there will be a special election runoff, so those numbers still may be undecided. And in the House, it'll be controlled by the Democrats. So that's where we sit right now. 435 seats, Democrats in control, 204 Republicans in control of 191. Joe Biden and his running mate Kamala Harris just announcing in Wilmington, Delaware.
Our Ben Simoneau is in our newsroom with more on that statement he made just a short time ago. Ben?
Yeah, the Biden speech just a few minutes ago, cautious but confident. He spoke for about 5 minutes. He did not declare victory. Instead, he urged the vote counting to continue. But again, he relayed confidence in the outcome. Here he is.
I'm not here to declare that we've won, but I am here to report when the count is finished, we believe we will be the winners.
Well, the former vice president also made a call for the country to unite. And here is the thing. He has many more paths now to 270 votes than President Trump. He pointed out that his margins right now in Wisconsin and Michigan are greater than those that President Trump won the states with 4 years ago. And guys, as we pointed out here, over 1 million mail ballots in Pennsylvania still to be counted. And the lead for the president has now shrunk to only about 350,000 votes. It's very possible the former vice president wins there, his native state as well. Ed and Maria.
Ben Simoneau live in the newsroom. So let's move on from that and for a deeper dive right now. We're joined by our Democratic political analyst, Marianne Marsh, Republican political analyst, Rob Gray. It's great to see you guys. Marianne, let me start with you. It looks like Joe Biden has been able to, I know the president won Ohio, but effectively rebuild the blue wall in the upper Midwest, but just barely. So was it more about rejecting Trump than embracing Biden?
This election was always a referendum on Donald Trump, and that is clear as we continue to see these results. I think one thing we should not overlook is there are millions of ballots in mail facilities in this country that have not been delivered, including to these battleground states. Postmaster Louis DeJoy defied a federal court order yesterday from Judge Sullivan in Washington, D.C. to deliver all these ballots by 3 p.m. to every election department. He did not do that. So there are still even more ballots out there to be counted. And when that happens, I'm confident Joe Biden will win with an even bigger margin. And he's already eclipsed, as he said in his appearance a few moments ago, a larger margin than Hillary Clinton and the greatest number of votes ever for anyone to run for president.
Rob, do you have that same confidence?
I think Biden looks good right now. I think he was smart to come out just a few minutes ago and say that he's ahead in Michigan and Wisconsin by about the same amount Trump won them for the last time around, which sort of undercuts some of Trump's potential legal maneuvers and recounts. I mean, COVID didn't kill Trump, but it did kill him politically in the upper Midwest. No question about it. There were these hot spots in Wisconsin and Michigan while Trump was going around the country holding these super spreader rallies. It really hurt him at the end.
So Rob, let's talk about the job of governing. If Biden does win the White House, the Democrats control the House, but the Republicans may be, and I put that in maybe in control of the Senate. So will a President Biden be able to get anything done?
Well, I think Americans voted for divided government. If you look at the popular vote, it's essentially 50-50. We're living in a 50-50 country. They want a Republican Senate, or enough states want a Republican Senate to be, a set of brakes on Joe Biden and to check his worst instincts and potentially a liberal agenda.
And Marianne, yes, you said the votes are still being counted, but what does that tell you about America if that's the case?
I think we have a lot of work to do in this country. The fact is, our elections have not been normal since 2000, when a Supreme Court justice decided that George Bush should be president and Al Gore stepped aside. We had problems in 2004. 2008 and 2012, Barack Obama had such an overwhelming turnout that there couldn't have been any question. And now we saw what happened in 2016, where many questions linger, and again in 2020. The fact that no one would provide more money to address these elections, the Republican Senate decided not to do that. I'm not sure we end up with a Republican Senate, but either way, I'm confident that Joe Biden is exactly the right guy by his speech today and his actions over the last 40 plus years to bring everybody together and be the president of the United States, not just for Trump supporters, not just for Biden supporters, but for everybody. That's exactly what we need.
Marianne, Rob, thank you very much for your insight.